Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's live. So excited to be here with you guys every week, obviously. So, yeah, if you have any questions, throw them in the YouTube live chat directly or on the Twitter has its own live stream chat now. So you can do it there as well. We can pull up either or. And yeah, let's keep it farmer friendly. And yeah, I know. Okay, guys, my background is weird today. So we're in Christmas time, Terravilla. Welcome. Um, okay, so yeah, let me bring up Luke.
Hey everybody. Sorry, I have music playing right now. I'm trying to walk over to the theater. But yeah, no, excited to chat today. So I think this is gonna be the last boring AMA that we have until we actually have some updates out. To be completely transparent. Yeah, chapter 2 is moving along. It took a lot longer than I expected. Yeah, there are just some basically organizational things that we need to figure out at Pixels. And things just we're not where we thought they were, a couple months ago. So we basically had to reset progress and work on getting chapter 2 out. Now we're finally super close. I promised you guys it's actually close this time. Ideal situation is we open for farmhand testing this week. It looks feasible, possible. Granted, nothing goes wrong. A lot of the work that we've been working on to make sure this happens is that we essentially have all the migrations ready. Since we're changing some things with skills, we're changing your old items into different items. And we're trying to make sure that all of this progress is respected as best as possible. So there's a few different things there that we're doing. We're basically migrating millions of players' data into this new format. So it's actually quite technically intensive to be able to do this. But we're making these changes because these are setting the base and the foundation for what we believe is going to be a much better game in the long run. So once we have this out, we should be able to keep the speed up too. And that's kind of the debate that we've been having internally at Pixels. It's okay, now that we have, all of this here, we've gotten to a great spot, there's still a lot of work to do. And how do we actually make sure that we're building something that is, one, sustainable, two, going to not just stay where it is, but grow even bigger? And how do we get to the next level, essentially? How do we actually make, one, the game better, more fun, something that, is not just a Web3 game, but something that people in Web2 are actually kind of scared of because we're taking market share away from Web2 games. And then the other thing that we're thinking about too is how do we set up whatever Pixels is right now, not just to be a great game, but a great company or a great ecosystem in the long run too. So we've been trying to make the moves and basically set up everything that we need to for the next 2 to 3 years right now. So that means we're hiring more people, and we have game hires that we're making, but we're also hiring just on the organizational side too. And when I say organization, I mean the company side. So there's a few key hires that we're making. Actually, I'll probably post the job ads later today. One, we're hiring for a chief revenue officer. That's something that will probably be the most important hire that the ecosystem of Pixels makes over the next 2 years. This particular person who's going to be in charge of this. Essentially, that's what we need to do in order to move towards sustainability and actually figuring out how do we make Web3 gaming work. So yeah, I've been interviewing a ton of people over the last 2 or 3 weeks for this particular role. The kind of person I've been looking for is somebody who's kind of ex-Scopely, ex-Zynga, led monetization at some of these companies. So we can start to bring in some of their expertise when it comes to the reward distribution that we do, and also basically the way that we build out the game as well too. So yeah, you'll start to see a shift in that once we have that person on. This will be a 3 to 6 month bet and play that we're doing, essentially to increase revenue inside the ecosystem, make the game better, just do a bunch of small wins, and also build out further our user acquisition engine too. So yeah, when we talk about some other ecosystem stuff, we'll just we'll talk a little bit more about chapter 2 today. We'll go through some questions. But yeah, when it comes to some of the ecosystem stuff too, there's been some interesting developments. I don't want to talk about it too much or dig into it too much, but we've been thinking a lot about how we scale the ecosystem in the long run as well too. And what we need to do is we need to build a base for that now. So what that needs to look like is essentially we need to, one, make sure that Pixels, the game that you guys know and love and play right now, it's as good as it can possibly be. We also need to make sure that we've learned all the lessons that we need to in order to scale out in the long run as well too. So we've been building and thinking a lot about what are the things that we need to build in order to actually make this happen. What are the insights that we need to grab? What's the tech that we need to do? And yeah, all that picture is coming pretty clear. But then there's also been conversations about the horizontal scale and what that looks like on our end too. I put a tweet out the other day about putting some feelers in terms of acquisitions for Pixels. Like, what would potentially a good partner with us look like when it comes to like seeing if we can take the user acquisition strategies that we've done and apply them in other games. What does that deal look like when it comes to this, acquisition or partnership? And I mean, yeah, we got a lot of really, really great inbound from that. We're not rushing into this, but there's potential with that kind of stuff too. So if any of that progresses to a spot where I can tell you, we'll fill you guys in on that too. But yeah, I just want to like reiterate the Pixels team is thinking big. We're trying to take some big swings here. We are in a great spot. We recognize that we're lucky to be here. And we also recognize that, success is not given, it's earned. And there is still a lot that we need to do to actually earn our spot here if we want to still be here in the next year or two, right? We had some great milestones in the last week. I think we passed 1 million daily active addresses, which is amazing. It's a huge milestone, and congrats to everybody who's been a part of that. Now, we have to dial in the metrics too. Like for us, what we're shifting focus on is from just addresses to users, which is different. We talk about this a lot. And also really the North Star metric in the long run, when you talk about like the progress that the Pixels is making towards its larger vision of sustainability, proving that Web3 can be a really new, interesting user acquisition strategy that's like, able to beat Web 2 is around revenue and ecosystem revenue too. So that's basically the moves that we're making now. Building out the team, getting the right people around this area. And yeah, we're excited. So you'll see some moves happen there. Chapter 2, it's looking really close finally. As soon as we get farmhands in the game, I feel like I'm comfortable saying a date, and hopefully we get farmhands in the game this week. There's just like a few technical blockers finally, but finally the blockers aren't implementation or design. It's just like getting the team to get this huge, massive data migration that we're doing ready. So we're really close. It's been too long. We really appreciate the patience. This is hopefully the last AMA that I come to you guys and be like, I can't tell you when. Believe me, it's so painful for me. I hate this. And yeah, there is like internally some like gears turning in my mind. I feel like we tried to switch strategy a little bit to act more like a normal game studio. And it's funny because we just gave an AMA on niches, or like we just did a Twitter space on niches yesterday. And when I'm thinking about what Pixel's niche is, like I think we need to kind of lean back into what we're good and strong at, which is building quickly, trying things out, taking risk, and going back more into that F it, ship it mindset a little bit. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to try to transition us over to as well. I think the speed is the biggest thing that we had going for us before, and we're kind of losing that now. So luckily, we're not a huge organization. Like if we were a 200-person organization and we started moving in this direction, we'd be locked at this, and we would be basically unable to change unless we made very, very big structural changes. Right now, it's really just kind of like a process thing. So yeah, I want to move us back into fast, iterative mindset. Like I think that scrappiness is still our best trait. There's things that we need to do to level up too, but I think we can have both of those. Basically, now that we're a bit more capitalized than we were before, and we have more resources, I don't think we can't have both. We have to be smart about it. We have to be very focused. But yeah, I am personally sick of coming on these AMAs and not being able to tell you guys when chapter 2 is coming out. And yeah, it's got to change. So there will be some changes when we come into chapter 2 when it comes to philosophy with that kind of stuff. And hopefully when we change some of this org, which we're already kind of putting the like beginning stages of that in, you'll at least get content moving consistently, and then bigger system changes, hopefully quarterly at the bare minimum. So yeah, we'll get there, I promise. The whole team is still working really hard. Like we haven't become complacent. Yeah, we're here. So I guess today, rest of AMA, we'll go through some questions. We'll spend some time with all of you. And yeah, maybe it might go into some interesting rabbit holes too. Yeah, if anybody has like technical questions, we haven't done like a very technical AMA or I whiteboard in a while. Maybe if you have like general questions on like tokenomics or Web3, like that'd be a fun time to answer some of these things too.
For sure.
Oh, and some updates too. Like we have made some pretty big we made some big improvements in bot detection over the last week. That was a big piece of news actually. I think we banned a 750K account bot farm And some of the work that we've been doing is not just banning, but making it so that when we catch these bots, they can't make further accounts. So some really good work there that just happened last week. Shout out to the team and all the people that are involved in that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely massive win for the team on that one. Yeah, it's crazy some of this stuff happening. We see it and we know. And yeah, this just happened yesterday, I think, this big block. So it looks like very few false positives. There might have been some in the second batch of users that we saw. But first one, we're pretty confident all of them bad actors. And I'm pretty sure we stopped their ability to create more accounts as well, too.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you guys want to hear, like, I think last week's AMA, we talked about botting so much and how we're approaching it and like all of these different areas. So I would highly recommend hopping back to last week's and just listening to that if you're interested in that. But yes, we can hop into some questions. So you guys have already been tagging a bunch. You guys have been asking some good ones already. So make sure you're throwing them in the YouTube live chat or the Twitter live chat. And yeah, keep it farmer friendly. I've seen some questionable ones in there already. So we're going to have a good time. But yeah, let's dive right in. Okay. I think you already answered some of these, which is really funny and great. Oh, okay. Let's just break the ice. Yes, the theater link actually led to next week's AMA. My bad. It's been fixed. Don't worry. You are safe. Someone else was like, "Be safe." I appreciate you saying that, but it was just me putting next week's link instead of today. So my bad. Okay. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, we had a good guilds question. Where
Yeah, I
was it?
saw that one. Oh, so this is actually an update that might come out before chapter 2. So we're actually changing the way that guilds work a little bit. And this is how it was always intended to work. So basically, you can only be an active member of one guild at a time. So what we're about to actually introduce is guild shard staking in a way, or at least it's very analogous to guild shard staking. So essentially what you're going to be able to do now is you're going to be able to pledge a certain number of shards in a guild to that guild. And you're only able to pledge shards to one guild at a time. So if you're a guild, this actually means that you might want to filter on more than one shard being, pledged to your guild for certain levels of access inside of the guild. You essentially get more flexibility within the guild now, and like interesting incentive alignment. What we're also adding inside the guild feature too is we're adding more roles and we're adding better permissions inside of the guilds. And this should be launching before chapter 2. This hopefully is either like this week or next week. It seems like it'll ship. It's in our staging environment, ready to move over. I think I just have to give the green light essentially. But yeah, now what you'll be able to do is have a bit more fine-tuned control over what people are able to access on your land and what level of guild membership they can have. So essentially, you have to pledge your guild shards. You have to stake your guild shards to a specific guild. And once you do that, the guild leader or a guild admin will be able to change the role that you have inside of the guild. Essentially, they'll be able to label you as a member. I think it's either like a farmer or a worker, an admin. I think there's just those 3 roles for now. And then they'll be able to assign different permissions for each role specific to the guild too. So some guilds, they might make it so that basically even supporters, people who have not pledged to the guild, who just own a shard, are able to access the guild land. They might make it so that members, the next level, who actually have pledged shards, are able to access the land and any resource. They might make it so that even if you pledge shards, you might have to get to the next level of like however they define their membership. Maybe they say, oh, you can only get membership if you have 5 shards pledged. Then you get access on this level. So yeah, that's all coming. That'll be a pretty cool part of chapter 2 too, when it's like integrated into that. But I think it'll be interesting before then too. So yeah, a bit more of a focus on some of the guild stuff too. And this is stuff that we'll probably have to fine tune and tweak. If you guys basically want to give us feedback on what you guys think of this feature and like other permissions or roles that you might need, let us know. I think that some people might eventually want like basically permissions by specific types of industry or levels. So we'll look at that one. Like you might want to like only give certain people access to woodworking benches versus mines. And like, yeah, that's maybe a reasonable thing to ask for. We'll look into seeing how possible that kind of stuff is.
Okay. Yeah. So then this specific question. So if I have a shard from 2 different guilds, can I participate in both of them?
So you'll only be able to participate in one at a time. Basically, if you want to buy shards in multiple guilds, that's kind of your way just to participate in like the economy of the different guilds, right? So you can only be an active member. You can only pledge shards to one guild at a time. But if you like some other guilds, then that's kind of why it makes sense to go and buy other guild shards. Or you're like, oh, I want to participate in like the economics of TIFF Guild because I think they're going to be, become bigger. I think they're going to be like an interesting guild in the future. Maybe that's the one I want to join in like 2 or 3 months when they have like more stuff built out. And I want to like instead of pledging my shards to this guild, I'm going to want to pledge my shards to this guild in the future. So I want to get my shards now. So you can buy the other ones. You can participate in the bonding curves if you want, but you can only be a member of. You can only pledge shards to one guild at a time.
Yeah, and then someone asked, so as a guild leader, can I join a guild also?
I think so. You can at least buy shards of other guilds. You can only pledge to one at a time. I'm not sure if an owner can pledge shards. I need to look into that. I actually think maybe not.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What other questions do we have in here? I think those were mainly the guild ones. There was something in here that was good. Oh yeah, pets mint. Okay, so when pets mint?
Yeah, we should do that soon. Yeah, I've just been very careful of oversupplying pets. That's why I didn't want to do another mint too early. We have a lot more pets available. One thing I need to think about is the mechanism of which we mint again. I feel like doing it in more of a loot box style might be interesting. Obviously, it's like what we're trying to figure out is like how we can give you guys more ways to use pixels. So it'd be silly not to do this more. And yeah, the pets are super cute. So I know a lot more of you want them as well. Um, and yeah, I also want to be careful that we don't before we can actually get more pet utility in, I don't want to like overpromise what we can do for pets, right? Like there's timelines that we can like actually physically work into. So like that was the only other like thing in the back of my mind. Otherwise, like we should do more mints. Then the only other question is like how many should we mint each time? I think it's probably better to keep it smaller. I think like a 2,000 to 3,000 batch every single time might be the right move. That way, yeah, we're not like over flooding the market. And then the other thing I want to check in on too is like we have like I don't know how ready it is. It's like it's so close, but basically the pets merging together, I think, is a really interesting mechanic that I want to get out to. And I think it makes sense since we have some more traits. Like basically, if you can like combine a dog and a dino together, you'll get like a like dog body, a dino head. There's some like cool stuff there, and that's like how we can shrink the supply a little bit too. It's just like completely optional and aesthetic. But I think some people will do it because it's fun. Why not?
Okay, I'm gonna increase slow mode because it's already 60 seconds, but it looks like chaotic out there. So I'm gonna do
Yeah,
that.
I think this is I mean, this is a good thing to bring up. So, yeah, there's this new client side hack that we've seen. What I can say is we are improving our detection on it. If you are using a client side hack, basically what it does is it interacts with like the game server directly. It skips some client side verification and it allows you to basically chop a tree from further away. It's not that hard for us to do the post detection and see who's doing this. If you are doing this, you will get banned. So do not use these clients. Basically, the official policy of Pixels is if you are using an extension that gives you an unfair advantage against people who are not using it when it comes to automation, you will get banned. It's not fair for other people who don't use these things. Now, things like, something that reminds you to do something is okay. Where, if you have like a thing that's like, oh, you have to go water these crops, you have to go like chop this tree now, that's okay. We're not going to like ban you for that. But if you have an unfair advantage when it comes to automation, clicking, anything that feels wrong, that's not okay.
All right. Any plan to launch a mobile app?
Yeah, so we're gonna stick to a PWA in the short term with this game. The next thing that we're working on is we're gonna launch our own casual games, and we're kind of planting the seeds on that already. It's either gonna be like acquisition, or we're gonna build our own in house. And that'll be a mobile app. Like if we're doing some of this other stuff, there's kind of two options. We're talking to some surprisingly big names around this too. I'm not gonna lie. What's interesting is we're in a really good spot when it comes to like capitalization, funding, ecosystem, all of this, where we can make some pretty big plays if we want to on the acquisition side. It just has to be the right person, and it has to be the right team and the right product for us to actually come in and like be able to integrate, what we've learned to help them go to market, and actually also help create a good outcome for our ecosystem. So with an acquisition side of things, we're only going to do it if it makes sense for this particular ecosystem. It means like this ecosystem has to have like either a good amount of like their tokens coming into our treasury, or they need to monetize in the pixel token. But when it comes to like a mobile app, yeah, we're either going to build our own, like we're planting the seeds on that one. I really honestly like what Axie Infinity just did with their recent mobile app. And yeah, it's funny because we were kind of talking. We talked to those teams a lot, and yeah, we were talking the other day about this, and it's like, oh, I think we're trying to do the same thing. This is before they launched that app, but we love that idea. Basically, trying to onboard more people in the Web3 through experiences that they don't even know are Web3, or like actually have like no direct correlation, but plug into a bigger ecosystem. So you might see some of the Pixels IP coming to some mobile game experiences. And if we do that also, what we'll do is we'll basically give you like 5 or 10 pixel to go download an app and see if we can break app store rankings. It'll be really fun when we do that. So yeah, you'll basically get like 5 or 10 pixel just to go download and play a new game.
Okay, so then Carnival tickets. We've seen a lot of questions about this. So we had it was like a Ronin branded carnival. It was really fun at the end of last year, and it was the whole thing. And then so what you would do is use the carnival tickets and those 3 trailers at the back, and then you'd kind of put them in for like a chance to win a bunch of different in-game items, and then pets were also included in that. And they've since closed, so the carnival closed after I think like 6 weeks or something like that. But people have been continuing to earn tickets. So we do acknowledge that you're still earning tickets in game. We will do something with them in the future, but we don't have a timeline on it quite yet. We do see it as something really fun, kind of like a little alternative game loop. But yeah, we don't have like a solid timeline for that yet. But it would be really fun. So, okay. There was a question in here that I thought was really good, and I forget which one it was. Oh, okay. This one was just funny. What is a shard? I have 4. Interesting. So a shard is basically just like it's like being a part of the guild, but without a role, if that makes sense. So basically, anyone can purchase a shard if the whitelist is turned off, of course. And that's just kind of like showing that you're interested in the guild. You're a part of the guild, but you may not have the ability to participate in gameplay that would be assigned by the guild leaders themselves, which is kind of what Luke was talking about earlier about those roles and whatnot coming out in the future. So yeah, that's like a pretty rough overview of it.
Here's a good thing. A lot of games will beat you if you guys don't make any quick changes. I mean, I think that's true, to be honest. Yeah, if we get complacent and we don't do anything, yeah, we're gonna lose. So I mean, I think that's something that the team understands, or at least I understand. I mean, so here's the like transparency. I have not taken any tokens or sold any tokens on a personal level here at Pixels. My long-term interest is aligned in the long run. And I want to keep it that way. Like, yeah, people are telling me to do something else, but yeah, I personally want to keep it that way. I feel like it's good interest alignment between like me and the community essentially. And I mean, yeah, with that in mind, yeah, I am very well aware that if we don't, actually really move the needle in the ways that we want to over the next, year or two, yeah, I mean, I don't have the personal outcome that I might want, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things that we need to do. And if we just act like we already won because we hit a certain number or because we launched the token, Pixels will fail. And that's not what we want. That's not what any of the team wants. It's not what you guys want. You guys are enjoying the game. You guys are like loving the game. We want to make the best experience possible. So yeah, that sense of urgency is really important in an early stage startup, right? And the understanding that we still haven't really figured out the fundamentals is also very important too. Um, I will feel comfortable with where Pixels is at when it comes to like long-term vision once we have the fundamentals completely nailed down, and there's still a long way to go. And when I say the fundamentals, I think what I think is the North Star of figuring out when I can say, hey, I think we figured out Web3. Like I think we have somewhat of a mastery over Web3 and we can like really use this as a powerful tool is when we start to hit net ecosystem spend. So essentially, once we start getting more pixels spent than we're giving out. Um, and that basically means we figured out a bunch of stuff. That means we figured out like more efficient reward distribution. That means we figured out how to give more pixel to the players that matter most and the players that like the game the most that are more likely to use the token. That means we figured out how to give you guys more reasons to use the pixel token inside of the game, and I've kind of like moved through the low-hanging fruit. And that might even mean that we figured out how to monetize other games and experiences inside of this ecosystem too. So there's a lot of work that we need to do to get there, and we're not there yet. Like the team, yeah, the team does not feel like they've won yet. It's really easy to get into that mind space though if you have a token out, right? Because I think some people see that as the goal. Getting the token out was not the goal. Getting the token out was the very first step of the way.
Okay, so are there plans for future player personal progression? So this is literally chapter 2, right? You're going to have the ability to level up in all of your industries, and then it's going to take you down a path of progression in a whole new way. You're going to be able to kind of, we talk about kind of like niching down into like one specific area, like maybe your spec or your farm will just be all mines or just be like all woodworking benches, or maybe it's going to be like a good balance of everything. But it takes a lot to like level up these industries. Like I joke a lot about like play testing. I've become like hyper focused on leveling up some of my industries, right? So yes, plans for like player progression and whatnot, like it's all coming. Okay, and then another question that we got. Well, we have the ability to personalize our avatars more in chapter 2. So, yes, so you guys have seen some of the NPCs around Terravilla are looking kind of snazzy, looking a little better than they used to. So those were the first iterations of the new set of avatars that will be coming. I'm not sure if they're going to come on like day 1 release, but definitely on a preceding one. And they are so much better, and they're going to have a lot more versatility to them and whatnot. So we're really excited about that.
Okay, I'm starting a ton of questions. There's actually a lot of really good stuff today here. Yeah, we have more time to go through all of this too, which is great. Okay, cool. Is it possible that you will shorten the time it takes for crops to grow because there's a lot of plot sharing in chapter 2? Yeah, so chapter 2, it changes a lot with that kind of stuff. It's essentially, instead of you waiting like days for certain resources or crafting, and the time is normally minutes from now on. Basically, the constraints are going to be more around energy and also like literally space. So yeah, this kind of ties into some other questions too. What happens to players without guilds? And you expect 500 pixels for a player to get a guild with land, since 5K one land limit, 1 million players. So yeah, part of what we're going to be figuring out when chapter 2 is out is kind of an adjustment of like how many of the rewards we should shift towards guilds and how many we should have them on the specs. We're going to lean towards funneling more of the rewards to guilds and land ownership first, because it's a better filter for real players. So that's kind of the play that we have to do, right? Figuring out basically a balance of like completely free to play rewards, VIP rewards that are on the free to play tier, or I guess it's like, that's not free to play, but it's like the battle pass tier, and then like the tier that goes a bit further too, right? Like all these things stack and combine to like increase this kind of stuff. But that's a lot of the core tech that we have to build out, and like a lot of the key questions that we need to be asking ourselves too. So I mean, yeah, you're gonna have the best experience inside of Pixels when chapter 2 is out if you join a guild, but we're not forgetting about the other players too, because you guys also are obviously extremely important. The game doesn't exist without other people inside of this game and experience. But also note, like, we give you the pixel token for you to use inside of the game too. So if we're giving you the pixel token, maybe use some of it to go and get a guild shard. Maybe use some of it to do some of this stuff too, right? So it's really up to you at the end of the day what you do with it. But we're trying to make it easy for you also.
Okay. Ooh, okay. What are your thoughts about land renting?
Yeah, that's a cool thing to see. I think I was not super bullish on rentals for a while because we had some stuff integrated and it wasn't getting used in the way that we were hoping for. But yeah, I will say I'm like a fan of the loot rush system. I think it's actually working quite well. What's nice is it doesn't require our direct integration. It just kind of happens and works. It seems like people are getting a lot of use out of that. And also, yeah, I think that's going to be a more popular thing when chapter 2 is out, to basically rent some stuff too. So um, yeah, I would recommend taking a look at that. It also kind of gives you like a taste of if it makes sense for you to get a piece of land. I think I've seen a few people do it just for a couple days, even just to like go through the task board a bit more. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting meta to be honest. Save up coins, rent land for a day, and then go through the task board. Wait a little bit, save up coins, rent land for a day. Like there's interesting metas that might pop up through this stuff.
Okay. What will happen to a player that do not have a guild and do not have land in chapter 2? Yeah, right. So that is literally like why we're building out this whole new spec gameplay, because you're going to be able to participate in the game in your own. You can just stay on your spec and farm away and be like a solo player and not, you know, not join a guild or not participate in NFT land game loops, and that's fine. You won't be able to maybe level up as high as you would want to, so I'm sure down the line you're gonna want to slowly participate in some of the NFT gameplay because of those higher tier resources. But you can just stay on your spec and chill and have a good time. Okay, Luke, are you there?
Sorry, my laptop is dangerously close to shutting off.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you like cut out or something. Okay.
Back.
Okay. Um, okay. I bought other shoes. Is there more utility? Okay, so the audacity, I have to say. Having other shoes is such a privilege because you walk faster, and that utility in itself is worth it. Let me tell you, on our internal servers, I will just send myself a pair so that I don't have to walk slowly. So yeah, that is the utility, and it is a damn good one. So, all right. Are you still figuring out your laptop? Or are we good?
No, no, it's good. It's good. Yeah, I've just been starting more questions.
Okay.
Oh, here's one. Luke, are you not interested in putting a sponsor in Terra Villa? It can make a pixel burning mech. Yeah, what I can say is this is going to happen very soon. With like maybe 2 or 3 different partners. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, we're excited to see what that looks like. So yeah, we have a couple of things in the pipeline for this already. It's a really easy win for us. And yeah, we just want to kind of experiment early on. So yeah, it'll be with some of your favorite people in the space is what I'll say. Yeah, we're excited about this. Any plans on doing something to someone who gets a level 99 skill? Okay, one, I think whoever gets the first 99, we should throw a party for. Like a huge party. That's like a big deal. But then two, what I will say is like the people who get high skills will have a pretty big advantage in chapter 2. What I can say is like basically every 10 levels you get access to something much better. And there's not that many people who have like the 40s that you're gonna need for some of the stuff in chapter 2 yet. You guys will be in very high demand. Like people are gonna want you basically. Or at least like all the stuff that you're getting. So yeah, the levels early on will be very helpful. And yeah, the people are getting even higher as we start to get more content out. That's going to come into play too.
Okay.
Yeah, and this kind of goes in line with this question. I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you think about the incentives to level up skills when it comes to earn more XP and more valuable crafts? This is exactly why we were doing chapter 2, basically. Right now, the skills don't matter so much. and there's not very much meta change inside of the game. Essentially, your skills will matter a lot more in chapter 2. It's going to feel more like a normal game if you played like, any MMO like Maple Story or RuneScape or Ragnarok. Like your skills actually do something. It's kind of prestigious to have higher level skills, and it'll be more obvious what that actually does for you in chapter 2 as well.
Do you ever think about a backpack mint for inventory space? So there's inventory is going to be, it's kind of going to switch up a little bit in chapter 2. It's going to play out a little differently, like we've already leaked in one of the previous AMAs, how we're going to have different sized storage chests that you can craft, right? So even storage chests now are tiered, which is pretty cool. And then obviously there are opportunities to get more backpack space right now with VIP and land ownership. And then maybe in the future, that's something like it could be like a possible pixel burn in some capacity. So yeah. And then, yeah, these limited edition items, kind of like quality. We talk a bit about like the potential of pixel burn in the game being those quality of life enhancements. Like we want everyone to be able to play pixels, obviously, because the more the merrier. But those quality of life enhancements could be done through pixel burn, right? So yeah, there's lots of opportunities there.
Someone asked for more storage space, please. Oh no. What I will say is storage management will get a bit more interesting in chapter 2. There's a lot more resources, but there's also gonna be different tiers of storage chests.
Yeah, I just said this.
Okay. Good.
You were so concentrated. yeah, it's all coming.
Yeah, it might feel a little painful early on.
Yeah, one of my bookmarks, right? So like these are those quality of life enhancements that we can implement as a pixel burn in the future.
Yeah, so what's going on with this kind of stuff is I don't want to push chapter 2 back anymore. I just want to get it out. So we're going to start adding in some of that stuff slowly, essentially. Like I could push it back another week and be like, hey, you guys need to add monetization before we go live. But I think it's worth just getting it out, getting the feedback. I know I've said it's close for months in a row now. It legitimately is this time. Yeah, I don't want to say it. I don't want to jinx us. But this is the closest we've been. And yeah, our target date, we have a target date internally now, and I think it's actually accurate this time. What I've spent a lot of time doing with the team is like basically sitting down with them, really mapping out what is the work that we have to do. Is this realistic? What's the estimate here? Like, yeah, basically I came in and like some of that was just, there were so many different things going on. So like, I'm not like, saying anything bad about like where we were, like, anything like negative to the team. Like there was a lot of distracted focus to get the token out. And I think it was kind of even lost on me at some point, like, what different people on the team were doing to make sure that the token and the after support of it went smoothly. After we finally had some room to breathe, we got to like reevaluate. And it's like, oh shoot, there's more here than we thought. But yeah, now we're in the spot where we have like much better idea of work left to be done. There's not that much left to be done. Now it's really just tweaking the final player feel and doing the final player conversions into our staging environment. Now what we need to do is we just need to get people into the game. We want to make sure that everything feels fair to them, that there's nothing crazy that they're going to yell at us about if we make these changes, so that I don't have a million people in my DMs being like, Luke, why did you do this?
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
Oh, go on.
Mill and Terravilla. Yeah, I thought this was coming out this week. I'll read this. Yes.
Yeah, so we've actually had about a bunch of internal debates on this, and we haven't come to any conclusions yet. So I'm not really gonna like talk too much about it, but we haven't forgotten about it. It's just we're talking about future game loops and how the mill will be implemented in that sense. And obviously it is an NFT trait that, needs to be respected properly. So there's a lot of internal debates on this one. So that's why we haven't moved forward, because we don't want to jump the gun on something and then have to like take it back or like change something and cause disturbances in people's gameplay. So
yeah,
that's the reason why.
Okay, so make an event every month, collab with other projects or like a seasonal NFT skin. Yeah. So one change that we're making as soon as chapter 2 is out is I'm basically going to move somebody full time to live ops, so that we actually have somebody that's literally just doing this kind of stuff, and in charge of like new content and all of this. So I think that'll be pretty good to have that, because basically we've had like the same team working on building out new features and building out content and doing live ops. So they can only focus on one thing at a time, right? So like this is where my job has been the last like 2 to 3 months, right? It's like figuring out how do I get the right people in the right places to build the right stuff at the right time in a fast enough manner. It's like I'm playing my own little puzzle right now to make sure this all happens. And I think we're getting to a better spot with like where the organization is heading towards, at least with like the right people, like the right understanding of like who does what, and like how we work together, where I think this will be a pretty good thing moving forward. Like, yeah, I want stuff like the Mochaverse thing. I want stuff like the Carnival, like every single month too. I think that's one of those things when I'm talking about our niche and what Pixels is probably what we were known for is like this kind of live ops content stuff. And we have amazing tooling to do it. And I think this is a good thing to bring up too. We have good memories from earlier days, especially the airdrop. Don't let the game become boring for us. We need excitement and competition. And I agree. So like, I'm trying to think about, what we've done over the last 2 years. And I think we've done some really great things and what we want to do over the next 2 years. And, this has been an interesting turning point for us, because I am realizing now just myself that like some of the stuff that we were doing before was like kind of this, lightning in a bottle or magic. And I want to keep that energy, right? I don't want us to become very corporate. I don't want us to become like a Web2 company, to be honest. Like I think we all kind of liked what was going on before, right? So there's like a certain level of like professionalism that we need to start to introduce. And I want to basically make sure that all of these like things that were very annoying before, like kind of ease back a bit. But I want to keep this previous energy that we had. So it's like a mix of this. And yeah, no, I appreciate the patience with all of you guys, because this is like some learning just when it comes to like company building that we're trying to go through. So it affects your experience here. And just remember, we're like a pretty early stage, still trying to figure it out kind of team. But yeah, there's some back and forth that we've had on this. Somebody's suggesting that we allow you to kill bots with swords. One thing I freaking want to add, I posted this in the channel a couple times. I'm not getting taken seriously on this idea. I think we need some kind of item where when you click on somebody, it teleports them somewhere. That would mess with the bots a lot. And yeah, maybe it's a sword. Who knows? But yeah, that and the bounty programs are interesting. We've actually some of the biggest breakthroughs that we made in some of this like bot farm detection is people coming in reporting certain behaviors or certain specific accounts that were then able to link to other accounts. So that stuff is helpful. And yeah, we probably need a better system for you to come in and report that. I will say it's a little more difficult than just reporting a single account sometimes. It helps us to like get a better idea of like the data, things like this. But yeah, we'll brainstorm that one.
Okay.
What happens to our chest? I have like 16 of them. Will they be tier 3? So what I will say is when we're converting some of the current items that you have, they're not going to be converted to tier 1. We're going to make them a little bit better. So that respects some of the progress that you guys have made right now. Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Some of them are. Some.
So
Bolded.
don't go and buy a ton of stuff with like the speculation mindset of like, what are they going to turn it into? That might disappoint you. But what I will say is, yeah, we're going to try to respect the effort, time, and energy that you put into everything that you own as best as possible. And we'll make sure that we get feedback on this before we do it too. Yes. Okay. Split stacks and choose the I just told the team, I think we actually need this to launch.
We were just talking out. But like I said, inventory stuff is going to change a little bit. So you'll see. Okay. Okay, interesting question. So, how will rewards for players be valued based on skill or reputation? So, when you say rewards, I assume you mean the task board. So, in chapter 2, the higher skill level you are in like everything, the better tasks you're going to get. Reputation is actually something we're going to like dive into and rework. It'll be interesting if we use it with the task board. Thus far we're not going to, but it is an interesting idea. But it's, it limits you from playing the game in a lot of ways, right? So you're literally not going to be able to level up as easily if you have a low reputation score, right? So it does kind of impact it regardless.
Okay, some more good questions.
Will
Here.
there be a guild treasury chest? So not in the first release, but these are the kinds of things that will come down the line in those future releases. I think this would be pretty cool. I don't know if we have a design outlined for it yet, but this is like one of those ideas that you guys keep telling us that you want. And obviously we love hearing those kinds of ideas and seeing you rally behind them. And it is a good one. So we'll see like what's possible with this.
Okay, somebody said canny feature request is totally useless. It's not, is what I'll say. I look at it. And yeah, I bring this to the team a lot too. So yeah, I might not be responding actively in canny, but I look at it a couple times
Yeah.
a week at least. So yeah, if you put stuff up there and you upvote it, I promise I do see it. And yeah, I take it directly to the team. It's actually very, very helpful. So don't say it's useless because I want you guys to keep using it. It's very, very nice for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Um, I like this. What are we gonna do in the caves? You'll have to wait and see, guys. We're not gonna spill the tea quite yet. Once we get closer to this release, Luke and I love to leak things, so you'll get a sense of what the gameplay is like. Oh, I just kicked something. I'm so sorry. That was loud. My son back in the game. I hope your son is real, is what I usually say to these comments. If your son is real, please have them appeal. If they're one of your multi accounts, don't.
Yeah,
So
so I mean, if you are legitimately removed from the game and you did nothing wrong, then yeah, please make a ticket and we'll take a look at it. It helps us. So it actually really helps us like fine tune our
yeah.
system. If you were mistakenly banned, it happens, right? Like we know it happens, so it does. And if you let us know, we'll like start to ask some more questions and we'll take a look at it.
Okay, good question. So can you put subtitles in the AMAs? So we don't have a way to do this live using our system, but there are some pretty cool tools out there that do this live. I think there's actually one for Spanish, especially. So like that like yeah, translates live. So look into those, ask around. After the fact, I would say several hours, it sometimes takes us a day, but we upload subtitles to the recordings on YouTube in like 16 different languages. So you can just like hold off until then.
Yo, my berry has been stuck for weeks because I was AFK when the conversion happened. Yes, we're still doing some berry conversions by hand. Yeah, we don't want to screw anybody over. We did make it pretty clear in the messaging. But yeah, we know it happens. So yeah, don't be upset. We'll fix this kind of stuff. There's a certain ratio that we're honoring when it comes to conversion of berry to pixel. And that ratio will keep decreasing. So the sooner that you get this done, like it'll eventually zero out. Like we can't have long-term support of berry in like a year. So yeah, if you still are holding on to berry, you need it converted. You got to make a ticket. We'll do it by hand. We turned off the automatic conversion because that was a kind of a big security risk.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so when will there be a new event? But I'm specifically interested in the second half of this question. Will you remove shoreline and heartbeat tests? So shorelimes come about once a year for summer solstice. So in the northern hemisphere. So look at your calendars. Maybe we're close to the time of year again. Okay. Okay. Will the limited items be available in the future, like winery kits? So no. So winery kits, apiaries, or the what's the barbecue? Those sorts of things are going to stay limited. We're not going to increase the availability of those. Yeah. Okay. Please add a message and add friend function in game. So yeah, this is something we would absolutely love to do. Also, just like the ability to maybe have like more private chats or something like that. I think how it'll initially play out is in a more like guild sense. So maybe it's like having guild bookmarks or yeah, kind of like community building features that help guilds stay like tight knit and whatever. And then maybe down the line we can implement them to be like more friend specific features, like maybe you can bookmark your friend's farm or something like that. These are those things that you can throw on Canny and get people to upvote and whatever. And so we just like continue the conversations of like what it could look like in the future.
Nice. Some more questions. Please make some competitive content like farming contests to win some rewards. Yeah, so I think that's what we're going to start adding into. Like basically, we're not fully allocating all the rewards right now, and we can reserve a certain set of the pool for some of the stuff like we did for the play to airdrop. Basically, we have all this tech that works still, and creating contests, things like this is actually quite easy for us. Yeah, we just haven't implemented it. There's only so much capacity some of the design team has right now, and they're like, I want to direct their total focus to getting chapter 2 out because it's just been too long and it needs to come out. So once that is out, then I can actually move some of their capacity to this stuff too. And I think we'll probably do that in the first like couple weeks after chapter 2. I think it's a good idea. If the tech still works, we have to check in on that. But yeah, I think long run, that's where I want some of the rewards to be distributed. If you've played any like free to play or casual game, I've been playing a lot of Monopoly Go lately, just to kind of like study it and understand like some of the stuff that they do when it comes to gameplay hooks. And I think that's where a lot of the free to play monetization has landed, right? Like there's like a lot of free to play games have landed. Like there's a bunch of different ways that you can like participate: battle passes, like contest, like a bit of the social stuff too. We'll start to add this in. If I'm trying to figure out where the game really needs to level up, if I'm being like transparent and honest. One, we need to get these core systems built out, and we need to make sure that these core systems work. The thing that we need to do after that is we need to make sure that the like initial player experience feels a lot better. So we need to maybe like experiment with the pace of gameplay, tutorial flows, the ways that you can actually use the token, and like all the integration around that. Monopoly Go is nuts if you've ever tried it. It's barely a game. It's literally, I feel like what it's designed to do is just keep you in the game as long as possible and not leave it, and then eventually convince you to like buy dice. I don't like that kind of thing. I think there's like something ethically not great about it. But there are interesting lessons to learn about it if you're creating something that's more real, more entertaining, and if it's play to earn, I think it's even cooler, right? So I mean, I think there's lessons to learn from anything in the industry. What they have done a really good job at is their onboarding flow, and essentially all of that kind of stuff. And we can learn more from that. Their pacing is really, really good. It makes the game feel a bit better, fast paced, more entertaining. And there's like a lot of dopamine that they send at you with all these animations. We're missing some of those things. But yeah, there's a lot to do still. That's what I'm saying. And we recognize it too. We really appreciate all the patience you guys have had with this. And yeah, we know that we could be doing a lot better. So that's what we're going to be trying to do, basically. There's some time and energy that's going to need to take to get there. And there's steps to it too. Chapter 2 is the first step to something a lot bigger that we're working on. And what's cool is now we start to get making multiple. I now, like in terms of like the power that I get is before we released the token, the team had to be very singularly focused. We still need to maintain focus, but now that we have like a bit more room, what I get to do is I get to make multiple bets in a couple of different places. So some of the bets that we'll be making are around, gameplay improvements to the core loops and systems, building out new systems. We'll start to make some more bets on, getting the right people on the onboarding and making sure that the pace feels better. We'll start to make sure that we have some bets around like more mobile and casual games and like more of the ecosystem stuff too. So there's a bunch of different things that we're going to start working on parallel. Yeah, once we need chapter 2 out to start all of this though. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up this AMA unless you had anything else that you wanted to go over.
No, it's been good. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited for the future. You guys have been asking so many great questions today. And like Luke said, we're here every week regardless. So sometimes, yeah, I've heard some people be like, oh, it's so repetitive. So yeah, it's gonna be repetitive. We're here every week, but we're so excited about chapter 2. So hopefully next week we can give you a more solid timeline. Like Luke suggested, we should be getting farmhands in testing. Farmhands are just some of our community leaders and top players. So they're gonna have a really, really good feedback and insight into what's working, maybe some things we should tweak in the launch. So stay tuned for that. It'll be pretty cool. They might even leak some things here and there, I'm sure. So yeah, I think with that,
yeah, my goal to you guys, I'm gonna really push for it. I want a good, exciting AMA next week. Yeah, we'll try to make it happen.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks, guys. We will see you next week.